Hello, I'm Matthew Crabb, and I'm here with Matthias Rasking, who is Managing Director for Sixsentix Germany. And hello, Matthias, you're in Frankfurt, I believe?
Yes, hi Matthew, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. And we're going to talk about the QA Financial Digital Forum on June the 17th and June the 18th, and also a little bit about Sixsentix and what you do. You're one of our sponsors for the event. You'll be presenting, Matthias, at the event, and you'll also have a virtual booth where delegates can come and organize one-to-one meetings with you and further presentations. But you've got quite a provocative title to your presentation, which is your chatbot racist? But this is a really important issue, the issue of bias in AI and how regulators and financial firms are looking at how they test the software for their chatbots. And as far as I know, most companies are still doing this manually. They're even using call center staff to check the answers that chatbots are giving to questions. But your technologies can take this process further. You can automate this. Is that correct?
Correct, and it all boils down to the data that you have. So what we've noticed, the first time I actually tested a chatbot was roughly 15 years ago, was one of the first avatars for actually in the public services area. And, you know, we testers found it quite funny that we could find Easter eggs and play around. But we soon realized that, you know, this was not a self-learning avatar. Yeah, this was just pre-scripted, rule-based engine. And, you know, there were certain limitations. But now with Alexa and Siri, all of us know that things can really go wrong. And we've seen the news around, you know, the learning chatbots, what they actually take into account and how they actually build their profiles. And we've seen racist chatbots, we've seen sexist credit cards. There was a big conundrum last year around that. And so what we were starting to think is maybe it's not just the quality of test cases that go into this, that you really test all the edge and corner cases, that you make sure, like a call center agent, if you ask this, you will get this answer. But it's really all about the test data. And that's, of course, where automation comes in. And we then developed a set of questions to find out, okay, from an edge case perspective, from a risk-based perspective, what is really important for a chatbot, and how do we analyze the test data to really make sure that, you know, that is not a biased data set? Because if I select a set of test data, I will use my own knowledge, I will use my own experience, and probably my own bias then as well. And that's then what actually leads to these problems, because you cannot fully test that. If you have a learning system, there's never a way to fully test it. So it's really a combination around the test data and the test data quality, but then also about operations, monitoring that and making sure that you recognize early enough this is going in the wrong direction. It's just learning from a set of participants, but not from others. And why is it doing that?
So the management of the test data, separate from the technologies that you can apply, is a big challenge for a lot of firms. And presumably they don't all have this data, these data lakes ready for you, particularly if they're just introducing these AI technologies for chatbots. So where does the data come from? How's it organized?
Well, that's the fun part. I mean, we've heard about, to some extent, the news that Amazon and I'm sure other companies use live recordings, and then somebody listens to that and trains Alexa and all the other chatbots. And, you know, people weren't really aware, but if you think about it, where else should the data come from? So it's very clear that all of us, if we go to a call center agent, we typically get the question, do you want the session to be recorded? We use it for quality assurance purposes. And typically we say yes, because who cares? Well, then let's use that data. Yeah, I mean, what a call center gets with questions is typically what you would want your chatbot to do. What we tested for a major financial fund firm was more an internal chatbot. And that's what I'll be talking about. This was more for people to get pre-approval for trades. So that's not really a call center agent type of question. That's more an internal thing. And you can really think about the types of scenarios that can go wrong, because if you feed this chatbot with a certain type of questions, you might get approval for something that it didn't really think through. So you need to use the operations people, the business side of things, a lot more than just your IT department to figure out what test data do you need, because they know the exceptional cases. They know the cases that can go wrong, and that's what you want to have seeded in your test data. I'm not saying that all of your test data needs to look like that, but at least you want to have some of these things injected in there so that you will catch them.
Great. And the issue of bias in AI, or testing for bias in AI, chatbots, these are very, very topical subjects. And we know that regulators are very interested in these areas and in what firms are doing to manage the risk here. Now, this is something presumably you see, and Sixsentix specializes in what you describe as risk-based testing. So is this largely compliance-based testing? Is that the focus of your business?
No, it's really about the functional risk, the risk to the business at the end of the day. The compliance space, the regulatory aspect, we see that at one of our German clients right now, where regulators came in and said, well, you can't really describe to us why you think the test scope that you have is adequate. And then, you know, the firm looked inside and said, well, you're true, we trust our people that it's adequate, but we can't really describe the impact analysis. So there we're helping with, you know, a lean form of an impact analysis, again, trying to automate as much as possible, but always making sure that it's clear and traceable what you have done, because regulators will look for traceability. They might not look at, do you need 25 test cases or 24 to test this specific instance? Yeah, that's not how deep they go, but they do want to understand that you as a company take your risk profile seriously, and that's where we can help. And the same thing applies then to chatbots, especially in this internal trade approval scenario, yeah, because you want to make sure that the risk to the firm is limited, and that's what testing is all about. And if you do that early on, that's when our way of looking at things comes in. So I would describe Sixsentix as the firm that looks at the risk coverage of testing more than at the test coverage itself. So we want to make sure that we cover as much as risk as possible, but probably using the minimum amount of tests. We don't really look at the number of test cases or anything like that. That's why this topic is so important to us.
Okay, and what other, can you give us just one or two other examples of the risks that your clients in the financial services vertical are addressing right now? We've talked about bias. What else?
Another very big topic today is environments. Yeah, so environments coupled with test data, who has access to what kind of test data? Are you allowed to see that test data? But also, are we really sure from a configuration perspective, is this the right environment to be tested in? Because a lot of our clients are now experimenting with blockchain technology. And I saw there's a great session on blockchain also in the QA Financial event in 3 weeks. And so that is something that we look at very, very closely, because blockchain, or for example, the whole topic of chatbots, the whole topic of digitization is very important. And you can have virtual settings, you can have environments that you spin up very quickly, but then how do you explain to regulators, but also to your own team, what actually has been tested? Which version was this? What about all the interfaces? We work with microservices, and you have all these loosely coupled systems. So that's a very important piece for us. But again, we start at the risk profile, and then we take a look at, okay, is this something that we can thoroughly test? In which stages do we test it? That hasn't really changed. And similar to risk-based testing, it's a concept that has been around for at least 30 years. But our twist on it then really shows, okay, do not only take the functionality into account, but the whole ecosystem of it.
Okay. And finally, tell us a little more about Sixsentix. I mean, originally founded in Switzerland. You've been growing. What are you doing now? Which markets are you in? And is financial services a focus for the business?
Yes, definitely. So we grew out of financial services in 6 years ago, and that was based in Switzerland. And we opened then our first offices outside of Switzerland and Austria, together with our nearshoring capability centers. And last year was really a big push for us. That's when we really went international. So we opened up offices in Poland, in Germany, and in the United Arab Emirates. And the reason for that was really that we followed our customers. So we identified the financial services firms there, we talked to them, and I would say more than 50% of our client base are financial services firms, be it capital markets, be it in banking, be it in insurances, but it's all around that, because the pressure there is on. The digitization wave is very high, and a lot of these firms are going through agile transformation, and that's really our specialty. How do you go on the one hand through an agile transformation, on the other hand you want to become more digital than ever, and at the same time, you have increasing pressure from regulators to keep quality up. So those three things together is really our sweet spot, where we think we have a good understanding of what our clients go through and where we can help.
Well, that's great. Matthias, I'm really looking forward to your presentation at the QA Financial Digital Forum. Again, anybody interested in joining that event, and it's free to register for financial firms, you can do that via the QA Financial website. And Matthias, thank you very much. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. Pleasure talking to you.